Something I talk a lot about with my group coaching group is acting on your impulses and instincts. And there's really two different types of impulses when I talk about this. One is like impulses that we need to have self-control and not follow through with, right? Obviously we know that. But the one that I'm talking about is more instinctual impulses when it comes to your business. And this is where a lot of people actually don't allow themselves to act on enough, and it actually causes problems for them. And so in business, when you're building a coaching business, you might have an idea, a spark, an idea, maybe an impulse or an instinct, something that you're like, oh, I should go do that. And then you second guess yourself and you're actually controlling that impulse. And so what I've done is I've actually changed the behavior in my business. Is I have set time blocks that I work in. And when I have an instinct or an impulse to do something in my business, call somebody, make a sales call, write an email, I don't second guess the consequences of it. I don't second guess how is this going to play out 5 to 10 years from now. And this right here is actually one of the best strategies that you can use if you find yourself stalling at building your business. If you find yourself saying, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing enough of it. I know that I need to be building my business, but I'm just not doing it. What if when you had the spark of inspiration to build your funnel, you got on the computer during that work time and you set up your Squarespace site, and then when you get overwhelmed, you stopped. You just took action on the impulse up to the point of overwhelm, and then you stopped. And then you come back later when you start to feel that inspiration. This is actually how I build my business. This is how we've scaled our business to over $500,000 in the last 6 months. And this is one of the number one strategies. If you actually read the book, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins, she talks about this. As soon as you have an instinct to do something as it relates to your goals, see, that's the key litmus test. Does this impulse or instinct idea move the needle forward towards my goals? At that point in time, you don't want to second guess it. You don't want to try to map out and come up with, is this going to produce the result that I want? Is this the right activity to do? Right? You want to actually act on it before your brain talks you out of doing it. Now, obviously, yeah, if you did this behavior when it comes to drinking and driving, yelling at your spouse, sexual proclivities, whatever, like, that's not the life that I'm talking about living, where you're acting on every impulse and feeling that you're feeling. But when it's something that moves the needle forward towards your goals, far too often we have the self-control that we do in other areas of our life in the area of our goals, when we actually should be acting on our impulses, when we actually should be acting as quick as possible on those instincts. And if you can't do it now, instinctually write it down. Make a list, have a running list, maybe on a note on your phone or something, to where you're going to come back to it later. Okay, I had this idea to do something, so I can't do it right now, so I'm going to impulsively open up the notes app on my phone, make a note, and then when I come back, I'm going to do that thing. Now, here's the thing. Don't beat yourself up if you don't do this. Don't beat yourself up if you're not doing this. This comes from a place of self-compassion. This comes from a place of you allowing yourself to actually start to do the things that are going to move the needle forward for you, instead of waiting for permission, instead of waiting until you know for certain if it's going to produce a result. This is one of the worst things that you can do in a business, is wait until you have certainty on your actions and ideas. My mom teaches people how to trade in the stock market and how to act instinctively without even thinking. This is something that she raised me with. This is something that she taught me how to do. And I think this is one of the number one strengths that I have when it comes to building business, is to actually act on those impulses, act on those instincts when it relates to something that is going to move the needle forward in my goals. And I think if you start doing this, just hear me out again, disclaimer, like, not in areas of your life that will produce negative effects, but in the areas of your life that will produce positive. And you might be making the argument, devil's advocate, well, what if I lose all this time and money? Isn't that a negative effect on my life if I act impulsively and I lose all this stuff? Isn't that a terrible thing? You don't know till you try. And honestly, business is one big giant experiment. You building your business is not this carefully calculated, mapped out thing. That's one of the biggest loads of crock and bull that's out there when it comes to building a business, is that you need to be so careful and so cautious about every step that you take. I beg to differ that actually acting impulsively and acting on your instincts is the key to success in business. And that's what I would encourage you with.